A big night Tuesday for the president and congressional Republicans as Trump prepares for his first State of the Union of his second term. But he's doing it after the tariff ruling and some new GDP numbers that came out yesterday that missed expectations. So what should the message be? Well, from both sides, let's discuss. We're joined by former New York State Senator David Carlucci, as well as director of the Center for Economic Opportunity at the Independent Women's Forum, Patrice Lee Onwuka. All right, the president spent some time in Georgia this week, you both know, to tout his record on the economy. Let's listen to this.
Adding $9 trillion in value to your savings. I added $9 trillion, and your retirement accounts and 401ks are at the highest level they've ever been. And then I have to listen to the fake news talking about affordability. Affordability. Do you notice, what word have you not heard over the last 2 weeks? Affordability. Because I've won. I've won affordability.
Patrice, $100 billion in tax relief, good job numbers, some of the stuff the president was talking about there. But I keep on focusing on this, and I think that it's correct to do so. People aren't really quite feeling it yet. If you look at the poll numbers, how should he handle Tuesday's speech before the country?
Well, good morning. And I think President Trump needs to strike a very good balance of recognizing where he has made good progress and then also saying that there is still more work to be done. I think the American people recognize that. The higher than expected tax refunds this year means real money back in your pockets, you know, to pay for that summer vacation that maybe you've postponed. But paychecks are rising, which is really good. That's going long term. You know, and I think there are other areas where we're seeing that there is strength in the economy. Certainly last quarter's growth numbers were not as good as expected, but that's because government spending fell due to the Schumer shutdown. When you actually look at personal consumption, when you look at investment, we're actually seeing that there are very strong underlying numbers with this economy. So people just need to know that the president is taking on, the affordability or the prices, and particularly in housing, where I think a lot of people spend most of their money and their budget, and a lot of people are burdened when it comes to higher rents and higher mortgages. So a lot of tax policy and good deregulation can go a long way in bringing down housing prices and bringing long-term relief for families.
David, President Trump posting some will be getting a 20% higher return on their taxes this year because of last year's tax bill. There are a lot of provisions in the tax bill for individuals and businesses. What do you think? What do you think his approach should be? Where do you think, Republicans, Democrats, Congress generally needs to do a better job of advancing an affordability agenda?
Yeah, I think this is the political dilemma of our time, because this was the same situation we had when President Biden was in the White House and the Democrats were talking about key economic indicators. But what happened was, it doesn't matter when you go to the local Piggly Wiggly and your bill is higher. And that is the problem. So I think President Trump is politically just missing the mark when he goes and gives a speech and said he won. He won on affordability, a term that he is still claiming is fake news. That is extremely problematic politically. Why? Because, yeah, you could point to one economic indicator. Let's say it's the unemployment rate. Okay, great. But if you're the person that lost their job, that is still a problem. So economics is personal, and I think politicians have to recognize that. And anytime we try to explain to people that they're actually doing better than they think, we've lost.
So, I think that you make some good points there, David. What Democrats have asked, and just a follow-up to you, Democrats have asked new Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger to give the response to the president's address. What plan for affordability do you think that we could hear from her? And I would point out that in just the last month, she has proposed 50 tax increases or new taxes on the people of Virginia.
Yeah, I think there's many ways you can go. And of course, affordability is going to lead the conversation. But there are plenty of issues that the governor can talk about. And we can just look to public polling that's available. And we see the White House continuing to decline on each of these polling surveys. So the economy. Even a Fox News survey showed that the majority of Americans are disappointed with the way that Trump is handling the economy. And that's the top issue, right? We could go with ICE, immigration, and Americans are beginning to sour on President Trump. The point being that Liberation Day, or whatever he wants to call it, was the day that his polling numbers began to go underwater for this term. So the president has got to stop this rhetoric about winning or mission accomplished, because that is going to be the #1 campaign slogan for Democrats moving into the midterms. And I think this has the ability to sink many congressional Republicans, particularly if he has this notion that he's won. He's done the job.
I want to get
Affordability is fake news. That's going to be a problem.
Patrice in here to respond, and using some of the other, the other economic data that we've seen, but addressing some of David's points. Patrice.
Well, I thank you. My colleague neglected everything that Abigail Spanberger has done on the economy. Life in Virginia is not more affordable because she's been in office. When we look at utility bills, a lot of the reason why Americans are seeing higher utility costs is not because of the drill baby drill energy agenda of the Trump administration. It's because of a lot of the green climate energy policies of the Biden administration that a lot of Democratic states adopted, and now it's feeding right into your energy bills. So we're not going to hear her talk about that. I think the left is the left is going to come back and say, affordability. But really, when we look at affordability, their ideas are what Mamdani wants to do in New York City, which is to raise taxes on regular, hardworking property owners. Mm-hmm. It's to cut costs. They're not cutting costs, but they're cutting services to do so. So, you know what? I think President Trump needs to continue to say, we're leading with energy dominance. That's bringing down prices at the gas pump. Mm-hmm. We are trying to tackle affordability in housing, which is the biggest cost for every household right now. And we can do so from increasing supply and ensuring that, you're not spending as much money as you have in the past. And I think, ensuring that in working with the Federal Reserve, that, interest rates do come down to give some price or some interest rate relief for folks. Sure. And I think that's really the way forward, to say more work needs to be done, but to acknowledge what has already been achieved.
David, one of the things that I always look at with these speeches is tone and how people are behaving. There are wins here. There are things that are better today than they were a year ago. Crime is down, the border is closed, thousands of criminals, illegals are off the streets, drug overdoses are down, affordability or wages are going up. That's a demonstrable fact. The war in Gaza is over. Are we going to see Democrats sit on their hands the entire time like they did even for a young cancer survivor last year? I mean, what would you tell them to do in the way that they should sort of conduct themselves? Because the last number of years has been just a lot of theatrics and real bitterness coming from that side of the aisle.
Yeah, I think, look, and Hakeem Jeffries has been perfectly clear. You should not cause a scene. This is the people's house. It's the House of Representatives, and Donald Trump is the guest. And so they should treat him with that cordial respect. Mm-hmm. I think that if Donald Trump continues down the same path that he did at this rally on Thursday in Georgia, the Democrats really do not need to say anything. All they would be is a distraction, and let the American people hear what Donald Trump has to say, because I'm very curious as well. I want to know, what are his plans? Because according to his pep rally, it's mission accomplished. He achieved his goals. And if he says that at the podium, at the State of the Union, I mean, that's going to be devastating for those congressional Republicans.
No, I think you both make very good points. He needs to also ensure that, and any president needs to do this, it needs to be a forward-looking agenda and a forward-looking speech. David Carlucci, Patrice Lee Onwuka, thank you both for your analysis.
Good to be with you.